And that kind of did it. We were friends. But I left Bayview in '87 when our first child came. And Patti remained a part of our lives. My children called her Aunt Patti. And she was there for every birthday, every event that was part of their lives. And it meant we did have family in town. Neither of us had anybody from our families of origin. We had our family that we created, and she was a great part of it. The best part, though, was when I was subbing, and one day I subbed for Patti. And the student was saying some derogatory things about Miss Rosenbaum, how glad he was she wasn't there. And I looked at the young man and I said, "Do you know what my children call Miss Rosenbaum?" He said, "No, what?" And I said, "They call her Aunt Patti." His head went down on the desk with a very loud thud. And he said, "Oh, I just slammed your sister." And she loved the story, and we miss her.
You don't want me to keep talking?
Next, come on.
Okay, so in explaining how the celebration came together, I think then you'll figure out a little bit how I knew Patti. But I taught at Bayview from '81 to '91, and I taught special education. And at the time, I thought Patti, being a very literate person herself and everything, wouldn't have any input in what I taught. But I found that when I had to teach English to my students, and then much later after I left and went to a different school for 17 years, she was able to provide me with skills and embed in me the importance of literature. And that was Patti's life in a nutshell, literature. She could sit in her chair and she could read books from dawn to night. After she retired, she says, "Oh, I have no bedtime, so I can just read all I want." And she did, ferocious, as her obituary read. So literature just passed on to everything else, and with that, her knowledge of so many things. So that is how I met Patti. And because I taught special ed, I wanted to be a little bit more eclectic, and we did the Young Educator Society together for many years, and these were young individuals that thought they wanted to be an educator. And in that, I found, as I went through some of the oracles, to find autographs or things personally written to Patti, Miss Rosenbaum, and her things, many of them made reference to that. I may become an educator because of you, or thank you for yes, thank you for your leadership. I can only put a few quotes in there, but there's many more. And alluding to what Eileen had said, she wasn't everybody's favorite teacher. And you don't get to be someone's favorite teacher when you take somebody to task. And that's what she did. She made sure that, that what she was learning was important and it was for a lifetime. And that's what the other things say too. This is a lifetime of learning you have given me. Many of them have said that. And so that right there is a legacy. And that's something that's going to carry on. And many students that couldn't read today or haven't known about it, they're all in those oracles. So the other way that I know her then is, of course, we did our social events together. And I continued to be her friend after I left Bayview. And we did a lot of things that Parade of Homes was one of our big things. If anybody got stuck going to Parade of Homes with Patti, where she would stay in a home and write down every note for every building and everything. Then you'd say, "Patti, can we move on to the next house, please?" No, I got to get everything down. So it was just some experiences. Then I just just want to talk about today. I think the theme that I got inspiration from, so some of the flowers is Patti liked sunflowers. And I had the opportunity to clean for Patti too. I was a single mom, and she said, "You need money, and I need somebody to help me out, you know, and I can sit around and read my books, and you can clean for me." But anyway, and she'd always buy flowers, and she'd have this. She'd go to the green market. She liked going, and she'd come back with the fresh flowers, and they'd be on the base on the coffee table, and I'd have to clean around them for 3 weeks because they weren't quite ready to be thrown out yet. So I would change the water, and then they would just kind of dissipate onto the coffee table. But not that anybody here is in this for the recognition of putting this social together, but I'll explain for other people that Patti's family is in New York and Boston. Her father, who is 92, I believe, and her sister, Sandy, who is in Boston, and her husband, Joel, and they couldn't make it. And so this is their celebration too. And Susie and Marilyn have been in constant contact with the family to make this happen also. And so we met again. I met Susie for the first time, and I call her the East Side gal because she was, she can talk if she would like to, but I just want to know I met her, and then found out about Patti before I started teaching with her. And Marilyn, of course, taught at Bayview, but she also lives just a walk away from Patti. So she has her own stories to share, I'm sure. But we got together and we said we just have to have this celebration for Patti. So I hope you're all enjoying it. I could go on forever. She was my movie friend. And then every time we had to make sure that she had her movie bag with her bolster behind her back and her fold-out footstool. She didn't care. That thing folded out, and she put it down by her feet, and she'd be comfortable at the movie. So she couldn't forget that movie bag and stuff like that. But just little occasions like that it was usually an event, you know. And even had an opportunity to go to restaurants with her. You know, what a foodie she was, and she could tear out every recipe she thought she was ever going to make. But in restaurants, she really enjoyed going out and all those things. So I got to share all those wonderful things with Patti. And that's all I know about that. I hope you get to meet Marilyn, who was integral to this evening, and Susie. They're standing right in back. In case you don't know who helped bring you all together today. Marilyn is in New York. Audiovisual for us today with the slides and the pictures. I will just say please keep eating, and then you probably are recognizing this already, but there are photos back there, and we are welcoming anybody. If you have a special picture that you are in, that you can take that and stuff like that. And then there's other memorabilia over there that's going to be probably sent to the family after this evening. Okay? So let's enjoy the rest of the evening.
Family. She was a very pivotal part of our family. Our son, also referred to her as Aunt Patti. She got him his rocking horse when he was just born. She came and visited us in the hospital. As long as she was traveling, she always came to where we lived, and we always came down to shop with Patti. That was the thing we did. We shopped and we went to Three Brothers to have a burrick. And probably once a year, and I don't know who else in the room, somebody else would do this also, went through her closet, and we would do a cleansing of her closet, and then we'd shop for more clothes. It's just what we did. So for me, as I said, Patti has just been a part of my life since 1972. And I miss her. Thank you.
Thank you.
And Steve, I'll leave some of the better stories for you.
Well, those were pretty good. I mean, that was the teacher we knew.
friends from the time we met sometime in the mid-'80s, and realized that not only were our classrooms close together, we lived 7 blocks apart. I frequently visited her when I would bike past her house a couple times a week, just check in on her and have a short visit. And we just stayed friends. I don't want to take much more time to take away from what other people want to say, but I was one of several people who were involved in dealing with Patty's house and her belongings after she died. And there's pain and there's pleasure in doing that. One of the things that I came upon, I would like to read to you, is writing a journal that Patti kept when she was probably in her late teens, early 20s. She writes, "I take great pride in being an individual. I have a strong personality, which is not necessarily to say that I am a strong individual, though I believe I usually am or can be, but rather that my personality is definitive and very much my own. I couldn't be any other way. I wouldn't want to be any other way. I guess you would say that I'm that cosmopolitan girl." Oh God, let's hope not. She writes in parentheses. Anyway, I just wanted to share that little bit of reflection from Patti in a notebook from so many years ago. And I miss Patti. I miss her friendship, and I miss her deeply. Thank you.
Well, I've known Patti for about 30 years. My husband knew her long before I did through a volleyball group, I guess, on the east side. And met her going to Hamorama around Easter, which Nancy and Bob, I think I saw Bob there a little earlier, hosted. And then we had kids, and we kind of drifted away from the singles get-together on holidays group. And, but I always remembered that Patti was the fire plug during those parties, and she always brought the dish that had the most butter in it. You know, she's a great cook, and just this all-around silly person. Recently, in her retirement, we started a history book club together. You see a wonderful table back there with all of our members, and she wasn't real snooty about the books that she wanted to read, so we knew that she'd read everything, and she was a wonderful intellectual when it came to reading, and yet she was the first one to ask, let's read a good mystery, or something that wasn't very erudite. So she definitely wasn't someone to try to impress everybody around her, but just to have fun. And the last thing I want to do is make a plea to hear a story about the Miss Beer Can. I want to hear about how she got to that point. So if someone knows that story, please come up and tell us.
Before I just have a few things to say, I have a quick question. What the fuck is Aleppo? Aleppo? I don't know. As a matter of fact, just cleaning out the closet reminded me that I had a colonoscopy the other day. So, there you go. So I have a few things. Okay. I have a top 10 list of reasons why I miss Patti. Why I miss Patti. Now, Patti and I, first of all, my name is John Hain. My wife Sue, we've been married for 30 years, and we live in Middleton, and so we kind of moved over to Madison a while ago. So I haven't been really that directly involved in Patti's life for the past 30 plus years, but what I really want to focus on is the time that I knew Patti, okay? And time period, and my friends who are in the back there will testify to this, that time period was known to them as my dream period. And that had, like Picasso's blue period, only he did it with paint and I did it with opulence, okay? So, my remembering Patti is in that kind of a haze, okay? But, and I am going to say a few things that are not necessarily risque, but maybe not politically correct. But we can do that now, can't we? Sure. Okay, number 10. Brick house. Like the song, you know, she's a brick house. That when 30 or so, 35 years ago, that's how I remember Patti. She was, in her younger days, she was truly an attractive woman, like that song. And what, from I can vaguely remember, also a pretty good dancer, okay? Number 9, friendship. Patti really cared about her friends. And I can remember, and their welfare, and I can remember her as I was sort of drifting through this period of my life that had many challenges. I can remember Patti having several really good, honest, frank discussions with me about where my life was heading. Nancy Townsend actually did too, so I really appreciated that. Number 8, the Packers and the Badgers. She was a huge football fan. And if you were in the bathroom, you could hear how the game was going in the other room by the shrieks and yells of Patti Rosenbaum. And she would have loved the LSU game where the Badgers kicked their butt. So. Number 7, politics. Patti loved to talk politics. She always got to the point, and usually her points were right, and she would have loved talking about the current situation where, of course, we have, let's see if I can get this, the Donald and his fascist, racist, chicken hawk associates. And they are ushering in a new period for us to deal with.
Well, what do you really think?
And of course, you know, that's really another great example of a guy that the baby boomer generation has turned out. You know, Donald Trump. Okay, games. Patti loved to play games, card games, board games, and she usually brought a lot of order and discipline to the games. I think. Okay, and the next 3 have to do with virtues. Faith. She had tremendous faith in the healing power of Intimates cookies, Intimates cakes. Hope. She always had the hope that local stores would always have an adequate supply of Intimates. And charity. It turns out, and I didn't know this, but Patti really gave a lot to charitable institutions, especially during her retirement. A lot of little giving, but apparently a whole lot. So she was a real charitable person with a big heart. Okay, controversy. Okay? I know that I have in my life have had 1 or 2 energetic, mostly fun discussions with Patti about any number of things. And of course, you folks can talk about your interactions with Patti in that vein, very respectfully and lovingly. Okay. And along that line, I want to mention a few people who really helped Patti in her last years. I wasn't living here, but I know that Marilyn, Susie, Kevin, Steve, Nancy, Bob, Mike, and Jean, as well as the other friends here, really helped care for her in her final years. And you really deserve a round of applause. And the number 1 reason is that Patti was Patti, okay? And towards the end, because of her illness, she wasn't the person we all want to remember, and so I don't. I remember a generous, fun, attractive, demonstrative person who loved life, her family, and her friends. And of course, as you can tell by the crowd here, life goes on, and Patti would have loved this. About a year and a half ago, I became a grandfather, okay? And Patti and I had been emailing about stuff, and I sent her a couple of photos of my granddaughter Leah, and she replied back that she loved that girl. And I'm sure that Patti would have met her, and she would have met Patti. They both would have fell in love with each other. That's the kind of person she was. So, you want to raise your glass? Beer hands, whatever. A toast to Patti. May the road rise up to meet you. May the wind be always at your back. May the sun shine warm upon your face and the rains fall soft upon your fields. And until we meet again, may God hold you in the palm of his hand.
My name's Fred. I'm not going to give you a last name because I drove Patti many, many times. I don't want to brag. I was her dentist. So, I know your dirty minds went somewhere. But two of my children live in Manhattan, so we had that little connection in New York and talking about New York because I knew she was from there. But it warms my heart. Milwaukee's the only place I've lived my whole life. And when I hear that she was Aunt Patti to people and all that warmth, and you know, when you're single, whether you're male or female, to have that connection, really it makes me happy. She was a great person. I always enjoyed talking to her, and that's all I have to say. That's why I don't give my last name, because I drove her so many times.
Well, after I've learned a lot more about Patti than I really knew. My name is Rita, and I taught in the English department with Patti. But what comes to my mind is a statement that I heard that I've thought about. And I think it's so appropriate, particularly for Patti, that a person really writes his eulogy or her own eulogy as she lives her life. And that says it all about Patti. She was just a nice person. And everything else that people have said about her, being friendly, kind, a truly professional teacher, and a good one. And of course, I was around with enough schools that you don't have to go and observe somebody's class to know how they're teaching. And I know she was good. I always saw a wonderful relationship with her students and with all her colleagues. She was so even-tempered. And when other people talk about these stories, I can say that she certainly never struck me that way. And that's how we all saw Patti at different stages of her life. And let me just say this, she always, I didn't know she was a recipe junkie. We could have had a lot more in common because I am. But I knew she was a good cook, and I do recall that she would have friends in her house every Thanksgiving. And I don't know if any of them here, but she would make big plans for that Thanksgiving dinner. And also she had told me where I could buy the best Jewish rye that came as close to what she got in New York as I could ever find. And so I just have the fondest memories of her. We weren't dear close friends by any means, but it was just always so pleasant to be around her. And I really am happy that I knew her.
Although she never met a computer, she's like, this is a great gathering. If there's anybody who's just a little bit on the edge, why not? This is your chance. Why not? Yeah, there are some.
Wait, I have one more thing I want to
Oh, okay.
just say a couple words about it. Wait, I forgot my glasses.
You do? Oh, okay. Okay. I never learned to pause long enough.
Hi, I'm Patty's friend Susie. I knew Patty since the late 70s, and she was a really good friend. She was a lot of fun. She had a great sense of humor, and as someone else said, she was an easy laugher. And she loved to give gifts to people. I have little things all over our house that she gave us. And she did really care about her friends a lot. And one of the memories I have of her was about 10 years ago when my mother-in-law broke her hip. And she had to go into rehab for a while. And Patty went over to the rehab place to visit my mother-in-law. And I just thought that was so kind and caring. And I'm going to miss her, and I think we all are. And now this is something that is not related. This is something that I found when I was going through all of her pictures, and it's a note from one of her students, and I just thought it was really nice, so I wanted to read it. Miss Rosenbaum, I wanted to give you a great big thank you. Over the 3 years I've known you, you've given me so many wonderful opportunities in class, YES, and slideshow. I'll never forget what I learned from each, and I'm taking wonderful memories with me. Thank you. You are the awesomest teacher in the world. I'll miss you so much. Thank you. Love, Dawn. So I thought that was really nice. And so, and anyway, thank you all for coming.
Hello, I'm Keith Jonas. I was a student of Patty's in early 90s. Actually, I graduated in 91. And, you know, I stayed in touch with her after I graduated through college and even, you know, starting my family. You know, she was such a wonderful person. She, you know, touched my life. She touched my family's lives. And she became such an important person, even in my daughter's lives. And, you know, in short, really I just want to say thank you to Patty, and really just being an absolutely fantastic person to me and my family. And this is Olivia, and some of the memories that she has, and I'm going to embarrass her a lot, was playing Wii, dancing with Patty, and she's going to show you some of the moves. No? No? Okay, I've embarrassed her too much, but, you know, really, thank you, Patty, for being part of my life.
My name is Gary Lang, and I'd like to think that I was responsible for getting Patty into the teaching game. Patty worked with me at Hopkins Street Elementary in a Title I math program as my paraprofessional. And at times she, you know how Patty would speak her mind. She'd say, Gary, I do the same job you do with these small groups of kids, but I'm not making that much money. I said, get a degree. And she actually did do that. And this was mid-1970s or so. In Milwaukee's inner city, and Patty was just great with the kids. And hearing one of her former students from the high school era doesn't surprise me. She was a great girl. And I already asked Nancy Townsend, Patty used to tell a story about a rubber girdle that she owned. I never did get to see it, so maybe it will turn up somewhere. Oh, and I always liked the story about her father made a little column in High Times magazine back in the 70s. If somebody's got that edition, I'd also like it.
My name is Kim Jonas. As you just heard, my husband Keith had Patty as a teacher. My first encounter with Patty is Keith and I were dating, and he said, you know what, I've got this teacher friend of mine. And I said, what? He was in college. I said, you're still friends with a teacher from high school? And we all know Patty's Jewish, right? So he said, yep, and we're gonna go pick out a Christmas tree and help her decorate a Christmas tree. And I said, wait a minute, she's Jewish. But I don't know if you guys know, Patty loved her holidays. She loved Christmas, she loved Easter. As Keith said, she was there for every one of our kids' birthdays. Just this last July, we've got a July baby, that was the first birthday that Patty has missed in 13 years for 3 of our girls. So she was a huge part of our lives. She introduced our kids to many different chocolates. The girls enjoyed all of the visits they had and always knew that Patty would bring chocolates to them. So she's truly going to be missed in our family.
Hi, my name's Kevin. 2 things I want to mention, maybe more than 2. Number 1, Patty's smile. If you saw the pictures, if you see them again, she lights up the room. She had a great smile. She was a very generous person, as my wife Susie said. If we had anything new, a dog, a this, or that, we got a gift from Patty. Just wonderful. She was just wonderful that way. And if you ever watched a sporting event with Patty, she could be annoying. She would, why does the ball move to the hash mark? Why is this? Why is this that? A huge Packer fan, and she would always say, our team, this, our that. She was a lot of fun to watch a game with, but she would get in the weeds a lot, and kind of throw you off watching a game, but fun. I miss her, and I'm sure she'd appreciate all your being here. Thanks.